Alright, so we are going to make an infographic using PowerPoint. And at this point in time, I'm really starting this process once I already have all of my graphs made, and I've already have the design already. So sometimes I'll go through multiple drafts in PowerPoint, but this is simply just to give some tips on how to create the infographic that we've already looked at, and I'll create it in PowerPoint. So hopefully you can learn some tricks and maybe a new way to use PowerPoint to create some of your final products. So the first thing I'm going to do, I just opened up a PowerPoint presentation, and this is a traditional sized slide right now. And my infographic is 8.5 by 11. So the first thing I want to do is change the slide size. So I come over to the Design tab, come over to Slide Size, and come to Custom Slide. And here is where I'm going to type in 8.5 by 11. If I was doing a placemat, this is where I would type in the size 11 by 17. That's probably the biggest difference between an infographic and a placemat, is the slide size and the size of text you use. But other than that, really the steps and methods should be the same. So I'm going to click OK and maximize fit. So here I have my 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And a lot of the things that I do when creating this is just I use shapes, really just geographic shapes. I try and keep it simple and clean, and just kind of organize the whole page using some of those best practices that we've covered. So first I like to start out with kind of the heading and the footer to kind of frame in what this will look like. So I'm going to insert a shape, and I'm going to come up here. I'm going to bring it over to about here. I really use this ruler tool up here, and I'm going to bring it to about 1.5 on that side. And I'm going to click on the shape, and you can type directly into shapes, which I think saves a lot of time. Some people try and do a text box inside of a shape, which is an option, and there are some benefits to that, but really most of the things I do, I can just type into the shape, and it really makes it a faster process. Alright, so I'm going to highlight this and left justify. And then my subheading, I'm going to put in italics. I'm going to shrink this up a little bit. There we go. I'm going to change the fill. I want the fill to be a dark gray. And you see, if you look closely, you can see a light or blue outline, and I want that outline to be white. Some people do no outline. I think white kind of gives it that clean edge. And I'm going to insert another shape. Here. And I'm going to type directly in the shape again. And fill in with the colors that I added. So I'd already gone through and added in my colors using the more fill colors option that we reviewed earlier. And I'm going to do that white outline again. So there's kind of that first part, and now I like to kind of frame it with the top and bottom. So to make sure the top and the bottom shapes are the exact same size, I'm going to highlight this, copy and paste using Control C and Control V, just the keyboard shortcuts here. And then I can just change the text in here and down here. making sure no one thinks this is a real organization and real data. This is just for the purposes of our webinar. All right, and then I want to put in the logo down here. So I'm going to insert a picture, and I did create a folder with all the pictures I'm going to need for this here. Oh, not that one, sorry. Let's see, it was charts and pictures. There we go. All right, so here's our logo. Our logo is going to come down here, center it. So we kind of have this nice framing with the top and the bottom completed. Okay, so next we want to add in, we want to help the reader and guide them where to go. So I'm going to add this box here, move it, create a little bit of space. The outline is going to be white. The fill will be green. And I'm going to type in really this is framing with the story of the infograph. So we're really highlighting, since the implementation of the new website features in June 2016, what we show down here is kind of the results. So I like to add in a triangle within here to really help them see. And so I want to rotate that triangle to point down so that the reader knows where to look. So I use the rotate function over here. So I just highlighted it and I'm going to flip it vertical, bring it up a little. And I don't really want to fill on this. I don't want it to be distracting. I just want it to be kind of a helpful guide. So I'm not going to fill it. The outline's going to be white, but I want my outline to be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to change the weight of my outline. Maybe bring that triangle down in size a little bit. And a lot of it, you can mess around with the formatting in an infograph for hours at a time, but for the purpose of time, I'm just going to go with what we have. All right, so now I'm going to use this ruler. See that when I move my mouse around, there's that red dotted line up on the ruler. That lets me know where I'm going to be putting a shape or something. In this case, I'm putting a line to kind of map out my quadrants. And this line is in the middle. And I'm going to right click that line. I want this to be blue, that same blue that we've been using. I want it to be dashed. I want the weight to be a little bit thicker. So we'll do that. So I like to just copy and paste. So I'm Control C, Control V, the same line. So I'm not trying to draw another line that looks the same or is the same height, and I'm just going to flip it or rotate that 90 degrees and bring this to that. I have that ruler over on my left hand side too, over here, and so that's kind of where I'm mapping that out. Okay, so now I have my quadrants, and now I'm just going to bring in the graphs that I've already created in Excel using some similar steps that we saw in that bar chart video, kind of getting rid of those default and using some of those best practices in the title of our graph and in the colors of our graph. So I'm going to insert a picture. And actually, let me see. I'm not inserting a picture. I am going into here, and then I have an Excel file with all the charts prepared for this. So the first one is more volunteers were retained. So I'm just going to copy that, come over to PowerPoint, and paste it. And it just pastes in the middle of the page, but I'm going to bring it up to this quadrant here. Maybe make it a little bigger. Okay. And then in this quadrant over here, I had the bar chart that we created earlier. So I'm going to copy and just paste that. Again, it'll bring it to the middle of the page, and then I'll bring it over to the quadrant. And I'm going to bring this line up a little bit because what I'm putting below here is a little bit more data. And I wanted to provide space for that. So the next one on the bottom right is this increased hours with a benchmark. So I'm just going to paste that in here as well. Make sure it fits. So I'm going to move these text boxes around a little bit. I had them grouped together, but I want to move these around. And again, I'm just aligning things, and PowerPoint does a nice job of letting me know when things are aligned by showing some of these red dotted lines that appear, kind of showing me what it's aligning to. Okay, and then in this quadrant, I actually used Smart Art here. So I'm going to insert Smart Art, and I actually chose one that had pictures in it. And this is the one that I had chosen. And I need to, so Smart Art, I really like it. I think it gives you some good ideas maybe on how to display some of your data, but I think it can be kind of finicky when you're trying to make it fit within a certain space, and I'm doing these tiny adjustments, and it can really just have a mind of its own sometimes. So you kind of have to wrestle with Smart Art, I have found. But we will get there. And there are a couple little tricks that I try and do. So I'm just kind of trying to shape it within this quadrant. And then I'll add in my pictures. It is trying to load pictures right now. And it's from a file. And this first picture I just found on Pixabay, which is one of the resources that we recommend for free pictures. They're free pictures that you can use for any purpose, and they're great. So I'm just bringing those pictures in. Obviously, if this was a real foundation, we would want to use the pictures from the website profiles that people had been uploading, but again, that's not a real foundation. So I just pulled some pictures that are free from the internet, and then I'm going to pull in some of our quotes that we used. So I'm just going to copy that text and paste that text in here. And the same thing for this gentleman. All right, I'm going to copy the text, come back into PowerPoint, and paste. All right, so now I have both my quotes in here, but that's so tiny. The text is so small. It's size 8. We never want to do size 8, so I'm going to bring it, size 11 is really the size that I always try and make it. So, I just need to make these boxes a little bigger, move that a little bit, and maybe, bring it out. I try and make these boxes the same size as much as possible, but they're not directly aligned because of this curve here, so I'm okay if they're not the exact same size. But I'm going to fill them with our blue color, and fill this one with our blue color, and then this arrow. So I am pressing Control and clicking each individual dot to change the color of them to be gray. So they're all selected, and I am going to right click and fill them to be gray. And I want the outline to be white, and so I missed 2, but I can go back in and right click and fill them to be gray, and the outline to be white. Alright, so now I need to add in kind of my title here. We're keeping this consistent style, a title for each quadrant that gives you a major finding. So the title, so to do that, I'm going to insert another shape over here. I'm just going to come up here, and I'm going to type in volunteers stated they decided to volunteer and continue volunteering because of our website. So we don't need this to be size 18. I think we can probably bring it down to 14, and we're going to left justify, and I want no fill, I want no outline, so you can't even tell that there's a shape there, it just looks like text. But again, the default text color is white, so I have to come up here and change it to that dark gray color. And I kind of want to highlight what the main findings are. So they decided to, volunteer is a big deal, and then they decided to continue volunteering, so it's about that retention as well. And yeah, and so at this point, I would just make sure everything is aligned, really go through it again with a fine-tooth comb, but those are just some tricks. We used rectangles, triangles, and lines really to create this, and then we created all of our graphs in Excel. So really you can do this with some pretty simple tools and a little practice, and you will be able to create any product you want. Thank you.